the island of Rhodes. According to some contemporary accounts, Rhodes was once home to what by today's standards would be considered high technology. In the 5th century BC, the poet Pindar wrote that Rhodes was once adorned with statues that came to life, like living and moving creatures.
He wrote that they all of a sudden became alive. And so the question then arises, well, if you have a lifeless object first, and then all of a sudden somebody breathes life into something, could it be that we have references to some type of machines?
Where did the people of Rhodes get the knowledge of how to create these moving statues 2,500 years ago? I believe that it is just what Pindar said, which is they got it from the gods. Well, who are these gods? The gods are real people. They're extraterrestrials who had this technology, shared it with humanity, and now, when we see the Antikythera mechanism, there's something you can put your hands on that shows that they had the capability to do advanced machine work. It's 1,500 years too early, at least. The point is, that technology really exists, and from a technology like that, going to robotics is not too much further, and extraterrestrials would very well have had that capability for the time, if you believe what this legend says on face value.
Could the Antikythera mechanism be proof that the ancient Greeks had technology far in advance of the times in which they lived? And might this be evidence that there really were functioning robots on the island of Rhodes? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and claim there is also evidence that advanced robots existed 300 miles to the north on another Greek island, Lemnos. Here lie the ruins of Hephaestia, one of the most important cities in Greece. It is named for the Greek god of metallurgy, Hephaestus, who was said to have fallen here from the sky and actually existed on Earth alongside humans.
He's described in his workshop as being surrounded by automated robots. He flips on machines, and they bustle around doing all the sort of the hard, busy work for him.
One of Hephaestus' most famous and amazing creations was Talos, a giant man made of bronze who protected the island of Crete.
Talos was able to observe all of the ships approaching Crete and hurl stones at those ships. And he was able to release this heat and thus incinerating any boat or anything that would come close to him. So is it possible that Talos was some type of a machine or a robot?
Greece isn't the only place where ancient stories can be found about inanimate objects that appear to come to life. The Jewish Talmud describes a clay figure called the golem that could be brought to life by inserting a spell into its mouth. In India, an ancient Sanskrit text called the Lokapanati tells of spirit movement machines as far back as the 5th century BC. And the Chinese text, the Liezhu, describes a humanoid robot being presented to King Mu as far back as 3,000 years ago.
There are stories from many cultures, from all over the planet, of people who have either created other humans or machines that were very much like humans.
But if sophisticated robots really did exist in the ancient world, what function did they serve? Who built them? And perhaps, more importantly, what happened to them? On March 24th, 2015, the Mars rover called Opportunity reaches the west rim of the 14-mile-wide Endeavour crater. It is searching for minerals and other evidence that might prove that life once existed here. It is one of several remote-controlled robots that for more than a decade have provided NASA with invaluable information about our closest alien planet.
Well, NASA successfully controlled robots over, crazy distances. They would execute the plan here on the ground, then they would upload those instructions to the robot on Mars.
Another NASA robot, the Humanoid Robonaut 2, works on the International Space Station. And in development is the so-called super robot, Valkyrie, which is designed to set up habitats and pave the way for humans on other planets.
When humans go out into space, it's very difficult and dangerous and time-consuming. It's far easier to send robots. And if that's what we do, that's sure as heck what extraterrestrials are going to be doing.
Los Angeles, California, May 2018. At UCLA's Biomechatronics Lab, Georgios Tsoukalos meets with Associate Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Dr. Veronica Santos. Dr. Santos is working to make robots even more human-like by giving them the ability to not only detect, but also to react to physical contact.
This here is an artificial finger that can sense touch.
That's right, we're sensing multiple modalities of touch. So this is the same type of sensor that this finger is built around, and it can measure vibration and internal fluid pressure. It can measure how the finger pad is deforming. You can squeeze the finger pad, it's deformable like your own finger pad.
Okay.
And we can even measure temperature and use that to infer material properties. This is what the finger looks like without the skin on.
Okay.
So you can see the electrodes, and there's a pressure sensor inside that allows us to get vibration.
And these dots are the electrodes.
Yes.
Oh, how cool.
Here we have the bear claw visualizer. If you squeeze the fingertip, you'll actually see how the finger pad is deforming. Up here, this is the array of electrodes.
Okay.
We can measure the resistance of those electrodes as the finger pad is being squished. This is probably one of the most sensorized, dexterous robot finger test beds that's out there.
Oh, wow. That is wild. So would this finger be able to determine whether or not it is touching foam or a hard piece of glass?
Yes, they have different stiffnesses or rigidities. So one of the movements that you would make with a human hand or a robot hand would be to push against the object.
So if this could ever be combined with AI, do you think that one day we will have humanoid robots that can go and maybe explore Mars?
Yeah, I think we can. I do see humanoid robots becoming more of a reality and spans the spectrum of from neuroprosthetics to robots colonizing Mars.
Although the notion of using human-like robots is highly controversial, it also has the potential to make its developers and investors a great deal of money. Money which in turn could be used to finance the development of artificial humans that could, in the future, be almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Robots that could conceivably express their desires, feel pain, even display a wide range of emotions.
Can robots actually have emotion? We cannot really define what true emotion is. So if we don't know really what emotion is, can we actually create an artificial emotion?
If a robot is able to differentiate between good and bad sensations, even to experience pain, is this the first step towards forming emotions or perhaps even consciousness? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that extraterrestrials have intervened on Earth throughout our history in order to prepare us for this moment in time and show us that we are not so different from machines. The historical text, the Lysi, written in the 4th century BC, by the Chinese philosopher Lai Yukao, provides a detailed account of an encounter between a king and a robot that could talk and move exactly like a human.
A brilliant mechanical engineer brought a gift to his king. This was King Mu of the Zhou dynasty. And the gift was an automaton, a machine of sorts in the form of a gracious courtier who entertained everyone, could sing beautifully, and moved graciously like a human being, one of extraordinary grace and gentleness. And all went well until the performance ended. And then the mechanical courtier winked at the women and began flirting shamelessly, which upset the king.
When the king tried to dismantle this thing, he said that the moment he took out the heart, the mouth could no longer speak. The moment he took out the kidneys, he could no longer see. And the moment he took out the liver, he could no longer walk. Which raises an interesting question. If it is an artificial person, was it really the kidney, the liver, and the heart? Or could it have been different batteries that were powering different aspects of the robot?
We have to ask ourselves, was the robot that King Mu witnessed one of these technological devices inspired or even made by the gods who were extraterrestrials?
Abydos, Egypt, 7 miles west of the Nile. Within this expansive archaeological site lies the ruins of the Osiris Hall, where thousands would gather to worship the god of the underworld.
In comparison to many of the gods, Osiris was actually thought to have lived physically on Earth as one of Egypt's pharaohs. He is often depicted with a winged disk of the sun. And while many scholars have suggested that this is nothing else but to worship the sun, that sun, as far as the Egyptians were concerned, also had wings, and it descended from the sky. So in my opinion, something else was depicted, an extraterrestrial event that in fact took place in real life.
Although most ancient astronaut theorists believe that the Egyptian gods were, in reality, extraterrestrial visitors, there are many who wonder if Osiris was even made of flesh and blood.
One of the most famous stories that go hand in hand with Osiris was that he was dismembered by his jealous brother Seth.
Set went into a fury and tore his brother's dead body to shreds, tore it into 14 pieces, had it scattered far and wide all over the kingdom. But Isis, the loyal wife, searched far and wide and found the pieces and pulled it together.
Isis succeeded in resurrecting him. Now, when I hear a story like that a being is dismembered and then somebody puts together those pieces and then they're able to magically resurrect him, I have to ask the question, is it possible that Osiris was not some type of biological entity, but perhaps he was some type of a machine or a robot?
For ancient astronaut theorists, perhaps the strongest evidence that Osiris may have been a robot can be found in the ancient pyramid texts, which describe the symbol of the Djed pillar as Osiris's spine.
Osiris in his resurrected form was portrayed as a pillar that clearly resembles a modern-day Tesla coil. The Djed pillar was considered a power pillar.
In this one carving at Abydos, it is as if Isis has her hand inserted into Osiris's back. And so perhaps it illustrates how she was manipulating Osiris. Could it be that the story of Osiris is something completely different than what we have thought?
Norway, November 2014. Scientists from the University of Oslo work on a new breakthrough in robotics, creating robots that are able to adapt and continue functioning even after losing a limb. The robots also know how to create new limbs with the use of a 3D printer and reapply them, effectively repairing themselves without the aid of a human being. This new technology is the first step in achieving what Hungarian scientist John von Neumann envisioned back in the 1940s: self-replicating robots.
John von Neumann was a mathematician that had an idea about self-replicating machines, where you send out a seed machine and that machine will seek out raw materials to construct a copy of itself, and then that will then send that machine out to replicate itself.
So 1 become 2, 2 become 4, and eventually these things would be able to explore the entire cosmos. Now, one theory is that extraterrestrial civilizations would build space probes like that, and that would be the quickest way to explore the entire universe.
The interesting question is going to be the extent to which part of that self-replication includes the memories and the learning that the first generation of robots engage with. So you'd want to make the robots as open to new experiences as we are, but at the same time be able also to pass on the experiences from any given generation to the next generation through self-replication. So I think that this could be a very important way in terms of space travel to go. I mean, I think the more interesting question from the standpoint of ourselves as human beings is the extent to which we remain part of that process.
Is it possible that we could create self-aware robots that are completely autonomous and send them off to explore the universe unassisted? And might these robots be able to self-replicate endlessly using materials found on distant planets? Ancient astronaut theorists propose that extraterrestrial beings may have already achieved this technology.
It is entirely possible that an advanced civilization, and I'm saying far more advanced than we are on Earth, could actually develop this technology of self-replicating machines, and then could send artificially intelligent robots out into space as sentinels that scan a much vaster area than that civilization itself could go to with manned probes. It's something that probably is already very widely in use by a variety of extraterrestrial civilizations.
The von Neumann machines are an awesome idea that is reflected in ancient stories of extraterrestrials coming to Earth. In the ancient Egyptian tradition, we learn of these formless light beings that emerged from what they describe as the island of the egg and create civilization. It suggests that they're utilizing some kind of self-replicating robot that has the ability to utilize genetic forms, perhaps imported from the home planet, that can then be manifested on a new planet, in our case, Earth.
Is it possible that evidence of self-replicating robots can be found in ancient historical and religious texts, such as those concerning ancient Egypt? And if so, is mankind today merely tapping into knowledge that was available on Earth thousands of years ago? Knowledge that might have been brought here by extraterrestrial space travelers. According to some ancient astronaut theorists, the concept that extraterrestrial life forms may have first visited the Earth as machines or robots is not only likely, but logical.